There, only a bubble, but really it was.
Those online are about okay. Going to item 2.8.
Don't have too much coffee.
Got everybody? Item 2.8 on page 157, significance engagement policy and consultation. Okay, could I get a member of the second please for to receive the report? Peter and Rita, thank you. We will Leslie and Sean to speak to this. Is there anything that you? I'll take the report as read. Councillors, is there anything you want to add?
Through the chair, no, I don't. This was workshopped on the 29th of August. We had good discussion about it. We've gone away and made some amendments to the policy, to the draft policy, and that's what you see in front of you today. And we're looking to go out to public consultation on it.
Thank you, Leslie. So I'll open it up for discussion. We'll Gary first and then Terry.
Ultimately, the test, if we used it at our discretion correctly or not, is if we challenge. That's the sum total of it, because anyone who's litigious can have a go, and we know, you've just got to stand with God, because sometimes it's just ridiculous to do a consultation at such a huge expense, and but that's, you got litigious people, you've got a problem.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the key thing around is actually making sure the engagement's done before the decisions are made. And I think that's really come through in the draft upgrade we've done. And that's where I think we've really struggled before, and we've sort of get halfway down the road and say, suck it, and away you go, and everybody jumps up and down. So having that discussion well before it.
Do that.
All right, guys, we'll keep this. I know there'll be some else around this, so we'll keep it.
So yes, but just to finish, so I'm just really keen to see the amendments coming out, and council can really focus on making sure that engagement on important issues is taken out ahead of the decision.
So to be clear, what we're doing is we're adopting the report and agreeing that it goes out for consultation. So we will get the community will have a chance to have a look at this, play a part, and then as council we get another bite once we've been around. So what we're doing today is agreeing that it goes out for consultation. Any further discussion?
Thank you for the hard work on this, and it's a very readable report, which I always appreciate, and also the guidelines around public consultation. But somewhere I must have missed the timeline, or I wasn't listening. So when does public consultation end?
The 23rd of October.
Okay, gotcha. So it's concentrated, short, sharp, and then it comes back. Nice.
1 month.
The timeline sort of on page 158, so
Around
22nd September to 23rd of October. So it's forwards.
Oh,
And I know that there'll be some community members who are looking forward to things into this. Make them aware that it's out there. Problem.
I had a suggestion for the significance and engagement communications plan, because I note that you talk engagement with Māori in the Thames Coromandel district and mention specifically to Korowai. I wondered whether the Te Whata Ora Hauraki Alliance would be a good place as well, because that's sort of collection of bodies.
We can certainly do some.
Yes, so I know we've got the details, but it's when.
Yeah.
Well, it's a collection of yes, physical bodies, but.
Through the chair, again, is this going out through the normal channels? How are you going to
Yes, it is.
channels through those?
Terry on page 180.
Media engagement, I saw it somewhere, yeah.
Former community.
Right.
Profile.
Right.
Okay. It's all this.
Pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
Work, Ted, well done. So Can I get a mover and a seconder, please, for items three? Sorry, items 2 to 6, which sends it on its way. Robin, all those in favour? Thank you. It's on its merry way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leslie. Okay, so
3.1.
Yay, waste minimization.
okay, adoption of the optimization and management. Welcome, Lana. Welcome, Anna. So we'll get a mover and a oh, hello, Chris.
Chris Burgess from Tonkin and Taylor.
Sure up. So I'll get a mover and a seconder, please. Actually, I'll move this myself. And we'll play a seconder to receive the report. Robin, thank you. We'll hear from Mo and Chris and Anna first.
Yeah, good morning, Your Worship, the Mayor. Purpose of the report is for council to adopt its new waste management and minimization plan. I hope my voice is loud enough and it's coming through to the end of the room.
We can hear from you.
So this document basically replaces the current WMP which has expired. It's been through a number of iterations through public consultation and 4 council workshops. So I'm not planning to repeat the report again, but I will take it as it, and I'm happy to answer any questions along with that. Yes.
Thank you. Just before we go to Anna, do we need to be mindful of those amendments? Does everyone know about those? Do we need to log those, or is that already been done?
All done.
So those.
Been done, I just circulated it out to council, so they were aware.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anna, anything to add?
No, I'm just excited that we're finally here. And really appreciate everyone's input and through the various workshops we've had and the community feedback as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Chris? Welcome.
Okay, nothing else to add. I think it's just been a really impressive process in terms of the level of engagement around the council table. So I think it's should be congratulated on that and exciting to be moving into the next stage of implementation.
Where I said very, very much a living document, work in progress. We've got ambitious ideas and things that we'd like to achieve in this area, and it's ongoing. Thank you for the work that you've done so far. Terry.
Yeah, just got a couple of comments. I've had a couple of groups approach me and talk about on page 195, 2.2, waste disposal, reduce the amount of material that needs final disposal at 30%. You're following obviously the target by the government, but was that always the case, or were you looking for a higher number?
It was discussed at this workshop to follow the MFE guidelines.
Right.
But we said it to follow the MFE guidelines.
Follow the guidelines, not looking for more. And I just go to the second point was the collaboration with the community, really seeing that as 7.1, 7.2, about building those relationships with community, with those current recovery opportunities, and happy to see that flow through when they get their feet under the table and get things tidy. Really important. So those local groups are really keen to get engaged and get their recovery systems going and return some of the stuff to the community in different ways. Thanks.
Billy.
Thank you for your hard mark and lovely comments as well. It's really appreciated. I think following on from Terry's point, we landed with the ministry guidelines. And that wasn't too terrifying for the average member of the public. But I feel like we need to remember that we can be more aspirational than that. And there is room for us, this is a 6-yearly cycle, yeah, 6-yearly, for us to set goals that may not be in the plan, but say, hey, look, we're actually tracking at 32%. Let's do some more education and comms and things around ways for people to minimise even more. So yes, it might seem a little bit conservative. We did workshop that, but I just to reflect on the fact we can be more aspirational as the years go past.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Billy. And can I just say that it feels to me, and I agree completely with what Billy's saying and with what Terry's saying, it feels like we're in, I feel for the staff, we're in this position where we've locked in a new contract. We've had significant challenges to do with road closures and the fact that we've gone from 3 council contract down to 1 and the logistics problems that are locked around that are involved in that. It feels like we've got to get past and allow the staff to get past this current set of challenges that they've got in front of them. And we've already had discussions in our workshops, and we've set very clear signals that we want to see significant changes and improvements in the way that this is done and be aspirational. And I'm looking forward to those next stages, but it feels like we've got to get through these hurdles at the moment and then get ourselves onto a path, and then we can basically open those doors. And the other area, actually, the refuse transfer station, which will unlock some new opportunities that we don't have at the moment. Robin, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. One of the other things that I think that this gives us a lot of potential with is, at the moment in our non-financial performance measures, we have a single measure for volume of waste, which is quantity of council controlled waste per rating unit is decreasing. And, while we've been tracking well on that, this gives us the opportunity to sort of expand on that and then tell really good stories about it. So in table 3.2 on page 214, one of the potential responses to education is provide annual data on our website regarding materials that have been recycled. But actually, we could tell a quarterly story about how well we've been doing on that, because if we set our financial measures, so the non-financial measures correctly, so it's quite exciting to have this that will sort of lead us into the LTP and help us determine what it is that's appropriate to measure. So it's very exciting. Well done.
And because I was going to go off on the education tangent, but also those interactive infographics where you go, oh, look, the Coromandel Coal Board's reducing their waste to landfill by, come on Thames, come on Mercury Bay, what are you up to? But I was just going to ask the question about education, because we did talk about that being a significant part of it. And even there is someone based at Seagull Centre who is a part-time educator, is that right?
2 days.
2 days a week. Do we have budget, or is that something we will discuss in the LTP about putting money around educators or education resources? And I just threw that at the floor. I'm not sure if that's something you guys can answer.
So I might answer that is scope in the plan.
Yeah, I see it in the plan. I'm just thinking of dollars. Thanks, Mo.
Yes, can I just bounce off that? I think one of the concerns that I had as I thought about adopting this was that it was, we were baking in certain levels of expenditure, but in fact, all the expenditure is subject to our LTP and annual planning process. So we need to bear that in mind, that to put legs on this, or the extent that we put legs on this, will be discussions that we will have around LTP and annual plan processes. So we have a direction, then the funding, the way items get funding will be subject to our LTP and AP processes.
Thank you. I guess one of the really exciting things about this, where we're heading now, is the opportunity, as Robin and Billy said, the opportunity for data capture. which has, and is it fair to say that has not existed before to the same extent?
That's
The level of data that we're able to capture from this new program, the new contract, the new plan, will give us insights that we haven't necessarily had before, and so we've got ability to measure our performance. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
I think it will absolutely improve the data. However, we do, the data that we have received, you know, over the many years, for example, of the smart environmental contract, it is already showing us that we are really good at recycling in this district, which is really promising. So there's just, you know, further opportunity for improvements through really good education systems as well. So we're doing really well, but we'd like to do even. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
Thanks. I just had a couple comments around the document. So particularly on pages 208 and 209, we do refer in some instances to the Mercury Bay Resource Recovery Centre, and then we have images and we reference Waihi Tokoroa, and I just think there should be some sort of connection that this is one organisation. Yeah, just to help for readability of the document.
That sounds good. Have a good word.
Yeah, sorry, but otherwise,
Probably can do that.
great.
Is there any-
No, that's it.
Thank you. So we're going to adopt, we're working into this, we're going to adopt. Just-
Let's have a quick comment that I love a good infographic. And I love, like the rubbish bin or the rubbish bag.
Yes.
To 11, which is kind of colour coded. And I would love to see that sort of thing ward by ward. As my esteemed colleague mentioned, you know, capturing that data and interactive and stores and things on board. Yeah, love a good visual representation of what's going on.
Yes, that's a really good idea. Thank you. We that image is actually based on a waste assessment we did in early 2021, which actually did was based on an audit, swap analysis sort of from 3 areas, from Kongata, Whitianga and Thames. So we can absolutely look through that in future when they're actually doing that audit, have exactly that information per area.
So
Thank you, Emma.
I would just also comment, if I may, that in terms of the comms, and this is based on discussions that I've had with people out there, and I know that a number of you have as well, it does take a bit of getting used to new ways of doing things, not just in terms of the new contract, but in terms of the way that we manage waste. So I'm trying to focus on the opportunity. And if we can tell the story about how we've, as a community, made the most of that opportunity, and here are the good results, then I think we'll close that gap between people that are struggling to get used to a new way of doing things and seeing the results of what we're all doing as a community. And it is challenging, but I'm really excited about where we're heading for the future. So well done. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, David and Anna. Good work. So I'm going to put the resolution. Where am I at? Moving and seconding.
That's what simply is second to receive.
Things that to adopt the whole thing. That, all right, all those in favour? Done, Carrie, well done.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to say on behalf of the team, thank you to everyone. It's been a rewarding and a very engaging process. Just want to thank you again. And a little bit of trivia out of it, because I think some of you would remember the waste minimization plan attracted 750 submissions and the annual plan attracted 350. So there is active interest in the community.
That's
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. 4.1. Budgets, don't you like these?
Might be new.
Okay. So can I get a mover and a second to please clear the receipt? I'll move it. Peter, thank you. We'll hand it over to Bruce.
Good morning, council. So yes, capital and operational expenditure carried forward. There is a sizable sum in here that we're looking at when you add everything up. It's actually less than what we've done previous years. There's a number of large carried forwards in there that are kind of driving that number up, capital side particularly. So with approximately 2.3 million across a lot of roading activities, including a lot of storm damage repairs and stuff. So you have to get everything in as soon as you've had the storm events, and actually it takes a while to actually kind of progress through everything. So yeah, 2.3 million, there's 1.6 million for corporate and we carried across. We've got about 745k for Pirate Park, a little bit out of our control. And then we've got a number of others of reasonable sizable amounts. So yeah, and there's a couple of few more amounts as well. So I'm pretty selective about what we do carry over and what we don't. So some of those smaller ones are ones where we actually don't have any budget this year, and there's just a bit of work to finish off. So a couple of small consents that we need to get, and so we're carrying money across for those. Happy to take any questions on any of that. There's a few little reasons in the comprehensive report for each of those. So yeah, happy to take questions.
Yeah, Bruce, through the chair.
Terry.
Yeah, a couple of questions. Just the Whangatau Stormwater Project was a $1.1 million. Is that being spent and this is just the carry forward?
So through the chair, from memory, 1.1 million was for this financial year. And I think there was a smaller amount for previous financial year. So this carry forward.
Oh, this is carry forward.
22, 23, moving across into the current.
Current, yeah, gotcha.
So I should have said that is that obviously we don't close off the financials until kind of early August, but
Right.
we actually get all that stuff done.
Yeah.
There's a whole process that
That's
the
rolled
finance team and the rest of the organisation goes through, and then now we get to the September meeting. So this timing is normal.
Okay, thank you.
At the end of 23, 24, what will we have ended up delivering, CapEx?
At the end of 23, 24.
Yeah, this financial year.
So we had about 50 million, I think was the CapEx that we brought it down to as part of the annual plan. And then obviously we've got 6.6 million going into bed, so that takes it up to about 57, just
Comment on that, so there is additional funding as well, which is, we've got another 2.6 toilets.
Yes, true.
Potentially we have another little funding thing that some of us have been involved in. So when you start to add that up this year, despite all our intentions to clear some space to deliver, the addition of the carry forwards and continuing grant funding is actually going to make it quite a big year. So I think we can reflect on the fact we did the right thing in the annual plans to try and clear space, but that space is now taken up, if not.
It's a good point through the chair. And I should have said that Derek would report for the next council meeting regarding that funding that we've been successful in. So if that report come to council next meeting around that.
Can we have confirmed the FAR funding for this year?
And so FAR funding at the moment for the storm related stuff is 71%.
71.
Yeah. We're pushing to try and get more money, but we don't have any.
Because I see they've made the FAR funding for the 24-27. They've actually produced that, so it's at 51. Came out in the.
So through the chair, our normal rate is 51.
Yeah.
And so we only got 20% extra we spent.
On this year, yeah.
Yeah, 10% of your operational budget on storm, on emergency repairs.
It came out yesterday in the transportation thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions, Bruce? All the motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
Carries. Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate it. 5.1. Oh, Chief Executive.
For the highlight.
That's
So, the standard, won't go into too much detail, just to note that the appointments are still up. And there's a huge amount of staff time going for the appointments. There's a number of names that appear repeatedly in the appointment list. And the risk insurance committee will be talking to you about the policy about dealing with unreasonable payments. The number that potentially could be on that list is growing. Interesting, the request for services is still up. I guess there'll be a range of reasons for those, including waste transition. I expect next month they're going to be still up as well. I've made the comment in the recovery update that we give a verbal update on the Cathedral Cove situation. So the update on it is that staff have a meeting. Sending Stephen Town along to that one to work on pathway forward about what the fate is of Cathedral Cove and what else we might be able to do. So we'll report back once that meeting is confirmed. And just another little Tapu corridor, I think say that we signed off on the tender, successful tender yesterday. So quite good results in there. We'll back due course once we get there and we're signed up with successful tender. Three Waters.
So, and just before you move on, so you signed up yesterday. When do they expect works to start?
It's a good question.
Still,
50-day construction time.
Yeah.
Make sure that they get it done before Christmas.
perfect. Thank you.
Right.
So Three Waters is now being passed into law with the amendment bill having gone through under urgency. What happens post-election is up in the air though, and that might be something that we wish to discuss later on about what the potential pathways could be. Likewise, resource management reforms have been passed into law, and that there's probably some discussion post-election that might happen as well, depending on how the election pans out. Future local government, I'll leave that for the elected members who attended the meeting this day, who will be far up to date on that one. Corporate was attached there, going reasonably well there. And we need to work on the post-construction model of how we're going to actually operate it. So that's in process. It's probably that's it.
Thank you.
Just a question around the Three Waters. So staff have received employment contracts from entity, whatever it is. Am I correct?
I think the question is the contracts. We've received all sorts of lists and assurances and so on. There's nothing that I've seen that was a contract.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Martin and then John.
Yeah, and also just about the Three Waters, at the bottom of the section about Three Waters, it talks about these NEDs that are being advanced to standardised construction. Do you see this as just like another layer of stuff? I mean, will it actually help to make sure that infrastructure is built consistently across the whole country? Yeah, okay. I mean, you could ask 10 different water engineers to come up with a scheme for a particular project and get, 5 or 6 different ways of doing it. So to my mind, the idea of having a consistent approach seems somewhat unrealistic and potentially more bureaucracy. It's getting in the way, but
I think we're reform of center now, finding that I can take a large entity like what is and happen at it going part of time they put personal paper overnight. They are paid at the plant, the paper borrow. That was the rationale behind the entity model. But I think wait and see what happens.
As part of that through Justice.
Chair, if we just.
Sorry.
I'll say like-
Yeah, sorry. Specific questions around the design standards.
Yeah, so the next requirements, so it should kind of help things. Now, it's tricky because you get local conditions, so certain areas, so like Topol, obviously had quite, they get quite corrosive soil due to the volcanic nature of the ground. So some of their conditions might be a little bit different, so what we have here. But overall, I think it's a good thing to have a national engineering state code, and it helps for, you know, contractors and consultants working across different districts, as well as people that might be working across different districts. It's never going to be perfect. But I think that.
Thank you, Bruce. Gary.
Didn't this largely come through Justice Stevens' report on potable water, where he said there needs to be a national standard, and that's been approved. And I'm quite sure that potable water needs to have a national standard. We can't have someone doing their own thing, and I agree with you, Bruce. We have to have a national standard for potable water.
There are two standards. There's one under place and one under development. So the drinking water standards is now on the town of and that is very and we are spoiled from that's in terms of water quality. The other one that is under development is the construction standards. And that's maybe by developers and other what pipelines and pumps. So that draft has been released and permissions to open the end of October. That's expected to be enacted by about April.
Thank you, Mo. So just did everyone hear that? So all the standards which are demanded ROI, that's already in place, and construction standards, which is going through, expected by about April next year. Just to over to John and then Terry.
I just wanted to come back to the request for service area, which was something that you highlighted in earlier reports about having issues with the system. Can you just give us an update in regard to how the fix is going and what sort of clearance rate that you're getting from the high number of requests?
Yeah, so it's required some IT changes. And we undertook to come back to you with a date by which those IT changes would be in place, but I'm not sure we will yet because they're in a larger process of prioritising the various IT changes that we need.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, and we are in the process. We need to consider that.
Yes,
I can't, but we can come back to you with something on that.
So how's the clearance rate on the numbers?
But if you look at the statistics, they're clearing, they're triaging with 90% at the front with customer services, but it's the ones that take multiple agencies, so you're working with other contractors or other agencies, or there's multiple properties involved. They're the majority of the contact that take a bit longer, as well as the RFS replying to the customers. We're looking at publishing RFS, just where we take a particular RFS and then just work through what, you know, where the barriers are, how they can be improved as well.
Are there any particular certain contractors that are of particular?
You're talking about working with, it could be with Waikato, Dock, Regional Council, private property owners. I mean, it's a whole range of different scenarios.
Terry?
Yes, I'd like to just, Aileen, come back to the letter from the Honourable David Parker. You about the Spatial Planning Act and the Natural and Built Environment Act, and really first question is around the traditional national planning framework and how that affects us. With 3% yet, but if you still have to engage.
So the National Planning Framework is a new tool that at this stage is picking up all the national policy statements that exist and all the national environmental standards and kind of picking them all up and sticking them in a single document instead of having these multiple things that apply in the main framework. So the last time I saw it, it was around 400 pages. But it is replacing something like 19 pieces of separate policy and implementing together. Whether that survives post-election, depending on the outcomes, yeah. But there are elements in the reforms that I think everyone agrees are good and improvements. And the one I'm proud of is that statements of community outcomes, which was part of the subgroup that I was involved in putting together.
Right.
And I'm really hopeful that that will survive whatever may come.
So there's no bipartisan agreement at the moment, is there? So it talks about implementing this region by region. Has it got any indication when our region will happen? Is it going to be phased over many years or?
So the last thing I saw was that there was a chart, like a little bit like the Three Waters, laying out when the operationalisation of the reforms would happen, and we were in the later part of the decade. So this 10-year period by which the reforms would be implemented, and we're at the later end. Because we're bigger and more complex than many of the other regions.
When you say that's wake up.
There's also some fish hooks in it, and that the reforms open up treaty settlements again. And so the fish hook is that those agreements have to be in place before they can actually start the process of implementing the reforms in a particular region.
Okay.
Any further questions? Okay. So can I get a mover and a second for this to receive the executive report, Terry and Rebecca? Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, but I just need one last thing. So I attachment C, which we did at the very last minute, which is last what we were referencing before, is the key messages, and these may be iteration earlier version that we now have. These are the key messages that we have behind the roading initiative that Bruce is leading for council. And this is the messaging that we're allowed to say. I think Laura is working with Waitakere to get these out into the public domain. The next version of this iteration.
That'd be fantastic.
And just as a complete aside, I mentioned that Aileen, I ran into Nicole Rosie at the airport yesterday in Wellington. Very, very complimentary about the work that's been done between our council, both at governance level and at staff level, and so going into this storm recovery phase has opened up new opportunities, which I think will work very, very well for our council and our district in terms of getting focus on road and recovery and rebuild that better. But just the strength of that relationship, I think, was highlighted both at their end and from where we sit as well. So very complimentary. Well done. Okay, so there's another item on there, which is the 5.2, which is our mayoral report, which Rita and Natasha have basically picked up items from my calendar and dropped it in there just so that there's some visibility of the work that I do in my capacity. This is first crack. I think this is something that moving forward we can pad this out a little bit so that we get a bit more oversight on particularly the community engagements and the engagements with other entities at a regional and national level. I'm hoping that's helpful. But it just gives you a bit of an overview.
Any time to sleep?
This is a small snapshot of what goes on. So I'm blessed that I've got a good team behind me and a fabulous team of councillors who can and who I very much appreciate are increasingly stepping up to help and support in other areas. So thank you for your help. So can I get a move on a second, please? Well, I'll move that, the mayoral report, be accepted. Can I have a second for that? Ellie, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Reports to the public. First one.
Public is good.
I'm afraid the chair, so we just need to move and the hearing.
Yeah.
I'll move.
So before we do that, I'll just take a step back for a second. Because the items that we've got excluded, you'll see on your agenda that item 7.3, there has been some discussion about whether that needs to be public excluded, whether we can bring that and discuss that in open.
I think it should be public excluded.
Item 7.3.
Yeah.
All right, so I might need some governance guidance.
Through the chair, we would agree with that, and whatever the decision is, we can bring that into public if we wish to at that stage.
We also have the option of having a discussion.
Yeah, if I could just, when I brought it up with you before, Len, my thoughts after speaking to you and Aileen were that we'd go into public excluded. We'd have the debate there about whether it should be in public or out of public. And then, of course, the decision council was the public thing, back into the public arena at that stage. Is that, have I got that pretty much, would that be the process?
That's an option, but Dean's just walked in, and so Dean might be able to give you a quick and complete reason as to why it's confidential in the first instance.
So can we just be clear that we are still in public forum, we're still recording, so we have not gone into public exclusion yet. So maybe Dean, if you can give us some insight, but just be aware that we are not in public exclusion yet.
I would just note that the reasons are actually listed on page 343, so yes, these are the sections of section 7 of the appointment that enables council to put things into public excluded. And I would say that in making these calls, staff will always err on the side of caution, because the worst thing in the world you can do is put something confidential into the public arena, then you can't put back. But if you put it into confidential and the councils decide otherwise, it can come out of it.
Yeah, I would like to propose then that we move to public excluded so that we can make some, because these are not in the order which we're looking at them. So I'm going to go to public excluded. Martin, all those in favour? Hold on for a second.
We go have public that we. Okay.
So Dean, thank you for that. We'll back to you.
Okay. Don't call us, we'll call you.
Step by step. Cautious